Hello, welcome to Math for All, where we try to make math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone. I'm Molly Vokey.
And I'm Heidi Subnani. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're really excited to speak with one of our friends from real life. And so we hope that you can follow along. And we have one more episode after this one this season. I know season 5 has gone by so quickly.
In a flash.
And you may have noticed that we are highlighting women and non-binary folk in this year's season. And so we're really excited to continue that today. If you would like to find out more about the work that we're doing, you can find us on Blue Sky and on our Math for All YouTube channel or our Facebook page. All of those spaces will let you know where you can find previous episodes or more about the work that we're doing.
Yes. You can also find us at our website, mathforall.us. And as always, we have our book, Math Activators by Didex. So you can find that at Didex if you're interested in doing a little sort of intervention work on integers, fractions, and decimals.
And speaking of intervention, Molly and I are going to be speaking at the Math Intervention Summit with Juliana Tapper is putting on. It's a free online summit that you can join. So we will put some information out about that. You can find that on our social media and on our YouTube page. And so join and we can talk to you more there.
Yeah, that's in the beginning of June. So yay for that. Okay, we're going to be talking about how to make math accessible today with Cathy Krpan. We love talking to this lady, and we've been preparing for this. Actually, we saw her last summer, and it was very hot when we saw her.
We were in Texas in the summer, so wise choices all around.
Yeah, very, very hot. So anyway, let's hear about Cathy before we get started with her. So Cathy is a former classroom teacher, a professor at the University of Toronto, where she teaches graduate courses in mathematics education. She is the recipient of the Margaret Sinclair Award, an award that recognizes an educator in Canada who has demonstrated innovation and excellence in promoting mathematics education at the elementary, secondary, college, and/or university level. She works with teachers, school districts, and leaders across North America and internationally on effective teaching and learning strategies in mathematics. So let's bring her in. Hello. How are you? Great.
Like she was very hot.
Yes, you are.
Temperature that was hot. So we'll deal with that.
Yeah, no, you're very hot. She wears very high heel shoes, so she's very hot.
The temperature was hot, but yes, okay. I thought, oh my goodness, this is a great intro. Best bio I've ever had.
Darn, we're gonna have to start doing that from now on. Next season.
Next season. Exactly.
I love it.
Thank you so much for having me. This is fabulous, and it's good to see both of you because we don't get to see each other that often. We live in different places, so it's a great opportunity to chat.
We love being able to reconnect in this space, and we've been so fortunate that we actually know each other in real life and have got
real life,
so that's just fantastic. But we always love to start with where's your math story so that people can get to know you a little better.
Well, I'm going to share 3 vignettes. This is my math story. 3, and it's funny that I remember these vignettes. I remember what I was wearing. I remember what the people were wearing. I remember where I was sitting. And so it's obviously something that's had an impact in my life. So the first vignette is when I was in secondary school, and I remember asking the teacher after school. I said, "Look, I get the fact that when I do these things to this equation, the parabola rotates, but how does that happen? Like, I just don't get it." And so he said, oh, well, and he said, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, wah, 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 wah. And now I realize thinking back, dude, like you just have no idea how to speak to an early adolescent about math. Like there was no personal connection. It wasn't meaningful. And he actually said to my parents, she's doing okay, which I was doing all right, but not as good as I could have, I guess. But he said, but she asks like a lot of questions, like why? And I just and it was almost like, so that vignette, I learned that, math is just something to memorize. You don't need to, you shouldn't understand it. So my voice wasn't valued. The interaction really wasn't something that was engaging. Then the second vignette, still at secondary. After that vignette, different teacher, different classroom, we're sitting and we have this textbook and we're going through all these questions. So what's going to happen, he said, is each person is going to say the answer. So it's like, how you have 1,000 questions. So it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way down to Z somewhere, or Z. And so they started. And so I guess he thought this would help us better understand math. But what ended up happening was I was focusing on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I was counting to figure out where I was going to be in this hellish nightmare of yell out your math answer. So I got it all ready and I realized it was coming up. So I felt good. I had my answer and I struggled. I was struggling, but I got it. And then just with that, the person got up in front of me and went to the washroom. So everything was, and I remember the fear. I remember, and Heidi, you do a lot of research on math anxiety, like the anxiety that I had with that whole thing. So that for me just said, okay, math is a cold, hellish place. Like you just have to know the answer and you have to do it fast and you just bark it out. Then the next vignette, totally different vignette where, and memory, where I walk into this classroom and it just felt different. People, we worked together. It was just low stress. We could talk to people. It was okay to ask questions. Things were explained beautifully. And this was
even why you were allowed to ask
why? We could ask why. And there was even humor. Like the teacher even made jokes. Like it was just like, I was saying, what? Like I just felt valued and seen. And this is Chris, I mention her all the time. It was probably her first year ever teaching mathematics. She is now a professor at the University of Ottawa in Ontario, Canada. But and our paths crossed, which is fabulous to see this incredible person who's had this. And it was fabulous. And I just loved it. And I realized that math wasn't it disrupted that whole negative feeling and that negative perception and understanding about narrow view of what math was. But then after that, I got back and it was the same old, same old. So there was that glimmer of hope, that little rose that bloomed, that little opportunity. So, and that has sort of had an impact on how I think about math in my own teaching and in my own journey of making math accessible for kids and how we go about that.
I'm so curious though, because as you were talking about that, I was thinking I wonder how many positive experiences kids have to kind of overturn those other vignettes that you were talking about that were largely negative, because you probably had along the way some decent experiences that, didn't make you quit school. I mean, and everybody has a similar-ish story probably. Yeah. But I wonder what that research could possibly be. I mean, Heidi, do you know anything like that?
I don't know.
There's probably nothing quantitative on that.
Not that I can think of right off the bat, or at least that I've come across, but I'm thinking about, there is some research about ways to build new habits. And I wonder if that would connect in any way. You would have to have, and it's a lot of experiences.
Yeah.
Doing a new thing.
Well, I bet, because she had this one glimmer of hope one year.
Yeah, it was great.
And then she went into math.
Yeah, I know that. But I think it's interesting because then I had some positive experiences at the Faculty of Education, where people showed me math in a different way. And I think, and then when I became a teacher, I thought, okay, I'm going to try not to teach it the same way I taught it. But that's hard to change, because at one point in my first couple of years of teaching, I realized that I was teaching it exactly the same way. And then I just stopped. I remember that moment. Remember what I was wearing. And I stopped. And then I thought, okay, this is not working for me. And then but it's taking those risks, right? And it's scary sometimes to take those risks in our practice and in our teaching. Whether you're teaching a university course and you want to go somewhere different, or you're in the classroom trying to figure this out. It's messy.
Yeah. No, that's like such an interesting beginning point, right? Like, so now you teach teachers how to teach math. You know, it is that.
I have lots of stories. So I tell them all my stories, and they share, and it's funny. And I'm sure you've had lots of people come on about this, but in my courses that I teach, I ask them to write about just a little bit about their math story. And most of them are horrific. And some of them come up to me right before I start teaching. I just want to tell you, I can't stand math. And I said, well, welcome. My name is Cathy. Nice to meet you. Before they do anything. And I've had another one where I teach courses where it's not for pre-service, for people becoming teachers. It's grad courses that people who are not teachers can take. And I remember one time I was getting ready, and by mistake, a student walked into my course who wasn't, I guess, supposed to be there. And they took one look at what was on the screen, because it said like, welcome to math empowerment, whatever. And oh my God, and started like barreling out before. And I said, wait a second, come back. And they ended up taking the course. And then they ended up, long story, doing their PhD in math education. This person so it can happen anytime, right? Anywhere. And you get people like at events, like weddings, even funerals, for goodness sakes, saying, oh my gosh, you teach math? Like, I don't like math, and blah, 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 blah. And we got to change, blah, 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 blah. And I think, excuse me, like, they're saying their vows. Could we please focus?
Their vows. Can we talk about math later?
This is crazy town. Stop. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
It's a journey.
I love it. Then let's get into your question, because I feel like this is the root of a lot of the work that you do. And how do we make math more accessible for our students, for others that we come in contact with? How do we begin to tackle this kind of issue? Because it's not just a like PR issue. It's a, it's an accessibility issue as well.
Absolutely. And I think allowing space for students to have voice, and I think creating that culture that I experienced that one time, right, in that classroom, to feel comfortable, to be your authentic mathematical self with all the different areas of where you're unsure about, the things that you are sure about, you have confidence in, the areas you don't have confidence in, to be able to understand and help students understand in this culture that we want to create, that math can be understood and represented in different ways, and that we can have our own personal way of understanding something and representing something and engaging in those conversations around different ways of thinking about mathematics. And I think that's really, really important, and providing opportunities to visualize mathematics in different ways and represent it in different ways, I think is so important. I think students need to know, and everybody needs to know, like whether we're a teacher in the classroom, even faculty at a university, we need to have voice. We need to feel that our voice matters, no matter what it is, like whatever we want to learn about, whatever we're not sure of.
I feel like this is like, we're all in the business of making mathematics accessible, right? Like, it's not just a PR issue, but there are PR issues.
Right.
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 And also, like, in the jobs that we've chosen to do and come to, I mean, Heidi and I both came to our positions kind of not because we walked into them. Like Heidi was forced into hers, and I came just by mistake. Like somebody offered me an opportunity to do this, and I took it. So now here I am. But you know, I do feel like this is the whole part of it, is like you said, people are coming up to you at random places and telling you how much they hate math. So math was not accessible to them, probably.
Yeah.
Most of the time. There probably was some math that's accessible to them, but it was so little that it outweighed, you know, the bad parts outweighed the good parts.
Yeah.
So,
and I think being able to personalize something makes it accessible. Like when you can see yourself in it, if that makes sense, and you can access it, but you can create it, and you know that you have a voice in that space, and you're not going to be chastised for what you say, or you're going to be saying, no, that's not the right way. And it's not to say that we don't want students to think about math in correct ways, but allowing the opportunities to make mistakes along the way so that there can be learning that happens, and being able to talk about, you know, why does this work, and just looking at the patterns, and joy, like having joy in math. We don't experience the same things in other subject areas like we do in mathematics. So ensuring that all students have access and are able to represent and think about their own thinking, and like concept circles is one way that I've been using that as a strategy to help students think about math in different ways as well. So, and I think, if I may say, creating that space for teachers to have access, to be able to question without fear of, you know, everybody knows but me kind of thing. Quick story. A couple weeks ago, I was in a class, and, you know, I was teaching a lesson which I thought was brilliant, right? We always think our lessons are brilliant. And after, I always get students to write me just a note of what you learned and everything. And they were lovely. And I'm reading these, you know, this was wonderful. I learned this, I learned that. And then I came across this one student who said, I learned absolutely nothing from this woman. I didn't understand a thing. But she wore great shoes. So, you know, there's always a win, my
she's
friends.
about the shoes.
She's always about, right? So what needs to happen here, right? We need to talk about this. We need to pull back the curtain and have conversations about what works, what our successes are, but also I think those rich conversations about, I'm struggling here. I don't know, it didn't work. And for me, with that student, right, that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're on the continuum of the teaching, learning world and journey, we're going to have those students. We can't please everybody 100% of the time. We can't reach everybody 100% of the time with everything that we do. And having that conversation, right? The right thing to do would be to have that conversation, like, talk to me. What would have made this more accessible? And also, so talk to me about the shoes. I was thinking of wearing blue, but I went with the black. So you thought that worked. At least this kid doesn't know anything about good math lessons, but he's got like a sense of design and style, right? So we can, it's a win. It's a win. As far as I'm concerned, it's a win. But yes, we need to sort of look at that and see, how do we bring these kids in, and how do we support them? And as educators, as we move along. And
like a couple takeaways that I would say too, like you're asking for feedback from students. And I feel like that's like that puts you in a position of vulnerability that a lot of us are not comfortable with. I mean, I think, like, I will perseverate on the one piece of semi-negative feedback from a presentation or from
you better start wearing better shoes then.
That's it.
That's the message there.
You know, it's like you can have like 99% positive, but it's those little things, right? We have to think about, okay, like how do we take and receive feedback? Are we actually asking for it? And like, what's the goal of?
We weren't taught it, Heidi, right?
Oh,
like
no.
We were not taught how to receive feedback. It was forced upon you. And if it was negative, like, oh, poor you, I mean, I think that's like actually such a huge point here is that when you're in a classroom like Cathy is talking about, where it's expected that you're going to get messy, right? Like that's the term that you used in the beginning. Math learning is messy. Almost all learning is messy, but math is really messy. And so if you're in a place where the expectation is that you're going to get messy, then you're going to learn how to respond when you're not correct. And hopefully you're in a place where it's not going to be like, you're wrong, right? This is not the kind of atmosphere that she's talking about. She's talking about like, well, what do you think? Do you think it's right? This person over here is saying this and you're saying it's this. So like, how can we figure out who's correct? Right? That is a much different situation than anything I experienced in math class as a student.
Yep.
And as a teacher, that vulnerability of trying something and being able to fall flat and say, at least, the worst outcome is, it's not going to work. It's going to be horrific. It's not, the kids aren't going to learn as much. I'm going to be, so frustrated. But in the end, what's the worst thing going to happen? I'm going to learn something from this, and then I'm going to come back and regroup. But what's really special, I think, are those schools and those places that create that culture where, oh my goodness, let me talk to you. I had I did this lesson. It didn't work. Here's what's going on. Did you experience the same thing? And when someone says, oh yeah, I tried that and it didn't work. It's just the anxiety goes down. You feel like you're on a team, that we're going to go back in there and try something different. And also, just to build on what you're saying, if we ask for feedback, then we have to do something with it, right? It's not just going to be sitting there and saying, because it humbles you for sure. I mean, I asked for feedback in my graduate course, and I asked for it in the middle, not at the end, so I can see where we are, where we say. And sometimes, thinking, oh, come on, where were you? I said that. No, it doesn't matter. It's part of the journey of being vulnerable and being comfortable, and it's tough. And I think we can do it and say, okay, this is not my favorite thing to get negative feedback. I think we can pull the curtain back on that. And that's part of that whole accessibility. Instead of building up walls and everybody has to be perfect, it's okay. It's not my favorite thing to get negative feedback, but I'm gonna work through it.
Yeah. That's such a huge lesson to model for kids, because I don't feel like I saw a lot of that growing up, right? Like teachers didn't say, oh, during the lesson when I got observed, it bombed. Like there was none of that, because everything just looked the same all the time.
So I know kids don't know that the lessons have gone awry, right?
Yep.
Right.
Well, sometimes I think as a kid, if the lesson goes awry and everything is bedlam in the classroom, that's kind of fun. You kind of like those lessons as a kid. It's great, right? Do you remember, like, even if somebody gets in trouble and the lesson stops, it's great. It's like Real Housewives happening right there, because you're just like, it's not me getting in trouble, it's them. So you just kind of sit back, ooh, she's mad today. Like, what's going to happen? They love it. They love it.
Oh my gosh, I'm remembering some moments in my early teaching years. Good Lord.
Gosh, I know.
Oh man. But Cathy, you mentioned earlier about concept circles, and this is the whole reason why we met you, is because you're connecting with Didex on your concept circles. And so the first time that we met you, we were at CMC South. And we attended your session. And then we didn't see you again, I think, until Texas. I don't know if that was in the same year.
That's right.
I don't.
And I'm presenting at camp this June.
Awesome.
And I just gotta say, little. Can I just say one thing?
Of course.
So they've put me in a room. I'm like a featured speaker. So they put me in a room with 350 chairs. So all I'm gonna say is, people, if you are coming to my session and you're in a group, could you please spread out? Make it look like there's more people. If you have bags, put them in other chairs so that instead of looking like 10 people, we're going to look like 20 people or 30 people. I love camp. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
But anybody who's attending, 350, come on, people, we got to make it look good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a really big room.
Yes. Absolutely should be there because
spread
it's super
out.
powerful. So
talk
to us a little bit about what is concept circles and how can they help us in math class?
So what I love about concept circles is it's a graphic organizer that originally had its roots in language arts, and it was Vaca and Vaca that did the research on it. They had something similar. I took that idea of theirs, reconfigured the concept circle, put a circle in the middle, and repurposed it for mathematics. So it's a graphic if we could have one slide up, maybe.
I was
students put, there we go. So students put an idea, or the teacher puts a concept in the middle and invites students to represent their thinking around that. So in this particular case, this task, and it's like a concept circle thinking routine where you plan it out and you engage the students with a prompt, then they represent their thinking, and then they consolidate. And I just realized it's an acronym. I didn't realize just now, I'm just thinking about it. It's the acronym PERK. So we all need to be perky in our teaching. There you go. I don't know if that's going to work, but anyway.
Let's do it.
So you can see, and in this case, students were asked to only use visuals because I think that, we don't teach kids how to create visuals and what effective visuals are and to communicate with visuals. And visuals are great because they alleviate the cognitive load, the work that the brain has to, do to learn new information. So it alleviates that so that the brain has more access, to the different concepts. And the beauty of this is that, it's like a pasta bolognese. You've got your visuals, and then you layer on top some of the parmigiana, and that's like the discourse that happens as the students are creating their images and their representations, and that can be a really rich learning experience. You don't have to use all the sections. You can just use a couple of them if you want. And the other thing I just want to let people know was like, this is a large concept circle. It would cover like 4 typical desks in the classroom. So it's not like a small little 8.5 by 11, but it's just the engagement of this, because if we want students to visualize, because the brain processes information in 2 ways, through language and visualizing. And so if we want the brain to visualize, I think we really need to teach this. I don't think all students do this intuitively. So this really forces them to think in a visual way. And then, like, holy doodle, then you can sit back and say, well, what were you trying to get at? Like, what were you trying to represent with your concept circle? What were you trying to represent in that, doing what you did? And if you look at the one, if we can go to the next slide, the next slide, you can see like this one might not be 100% here. So it really allows us to see, as a teacher, possible misconceptions that students may have as well. And it gives us an opportunity to talk about something to talk about. Just give me something, to talk about. I think we need
a lot of singing.
A
lot of singing in your class.
Not much. No, there's a lot of other things, but not singing.
Okay.
No. Why do you sing? Are you a singer?
Oh, I sing, but it's not good.
Wow. Oh, that's
it's not good.
Okay, well, there we go. It's not good. So then maybe I need to access the singing, right? Do it. Like we say in class.
If you're going to wear the shoes, you may as well sing.
You got to sing. Sing. I sing. I neigh, but I don't sing. But that's a whole other thing.
All right.
Okay.
I love it. When we did this with you, you had us use manipulatives as well. And I remember that.
And that's coming up. Yeah.
Okay. Then I will not jump ahead. But I feel like having like that ability as well. So like we're really giving kids opportunities to like physically handle and manipulate as well as pictorially represent when they're doing this process, which is so important to like build bridges between the two. And the fact that it is pictorial takes away the language need sometimes, like when we ask kids to write, you know,
Yeah.
so, I'm concerned about, like, did I spell it correctly, or did I, you know, like all of those things. But if I can draw it out, like, oh, it doesn't matter.
And then there's like, you could either do it to say, what do they already know about triangles? Or they could do something at the beginning of a unit and then you come back, what would you change? What have you learned? That kind of thing. So lots of, and there's a whole bunch of different ways of implementing it. I'm just sharing a couple of examples here. But, and again, looking at possible misconceptions that they may have that you might not be able to access in other kinds of teaching strategies.
I mean, I liked when we were using this. This was, you know, obviously at a conference with full of adults, no children at all. And I felt, you know, we were doing something elementary. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember just talking to the person next to me, and I didn't know that person, but we were, you know, you're trying not to put something that everybody else is putting on there. So it was nice to be able to talk to somebody else about what their ideas were and what my idea was and how am I going to represent that, which goes back to what you were saying earlier about just having the opportunity to talk to other students.
Yeah, and listening to, I always say eavesdropping, like don't go to the table, but just eavesdrop from afar. Because I even in my university courses, right? I can hear them talk. Oh, did you see blah 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 on Netflix, blah blah blah? And then when I come to the table, it's like, oh, but the you know, the problem solving, blah, blah, blah. Like they change it. It gets edited, so this way at least you can hear what they're saying, and it's great for MLLs to have access to. And depending on where you are, like some students might create more sophisticated kinds of representations or some different kinds of thinking, and other students have a different entry point. So everybody has an opportunity. Their voice is there. And if you look at the next slide, we have, so this is more for our younger students. So you have around the outside sticky notes that say 1 less, 3 more, 5 less. And then the next slide, you can see that we put in some, there you go. So we have that amount in the middle, and you invite students to say, okay, I want you to represent, you know, the amount in the middle, but 1 more, 5 more. So represent amount that has 5 less, that has the same amount. And this is a really good way for students to, first of all, have access to the more than and less than. That's a complex concept. Yeah. I don't think we understand that. I remember talk about lessons that aren't perfect. I was working in a school, and I was doing something that I assumed, which is wrong. So there you go. I admit.
Exactly.
I assume things that are wrong, that they knew more than and less than. And that was sort of the major part of the lesson. And they hadn't developed that yet. So then we had to go back a bit and sort of have something where they could do that and look at different quantities and how many are in there. So this is a really good way. And again, using concrete materials, manipulatives, and things like that. So if we go to the next slide, you can see that you have this beautiful representation of all sorts of things. So we can talk about the relationship between the middle circle and one outer section, but we can also talk about the relationships that compare and contrast different quantities in, like, from different outer sections. Yeah. So there's just lots of different ways in which we can think mathematically and engage students in a variety of ways of representing and thinking about mathematics.
And you're looking for the relationships between these, which I think is like such a critical piece, because sometimes we'll look at all like, okay, this in comparison, we'll look at it in comparison to one thing, but we're not looking at the relationship between one piece. We might look at the relationship between one piece and one other, but you're looking at multiple connecting points to that center idea. Yeah. And so it allows you to differentiate pretty simply, I guess, by how you talk about it and what you're asking kids to do.
Yeah, and then the thinking routine, I talk about, the kinds of questions you can pose, because it's just not, this is not enough, right? Just a teaching. So what kinds of questions would we pose to facilitate mathematical thinking, in terms of, what do you notice? But sometimes students struggle with what do you notice? They don't notice anything. And so we need to scaffold that sometimes. Like, what do you notice between the 5 less and what's in the middle, like in the central one? What do you notice there? And I could even scaffold it by putting the number 5 in the middle if I want. What do you notice about, and sometimes what I do is I number those sections. So you can say, what do you notice about, outer section number 5, but where it has 5 more, what do you notice about 5 more versus 5 less? Like what is happening here? Well, there's less in this. Why is there less? What have we done? And when you think about it, it's almost algebraic thinking. Like, what have we done? In the middle there, we've got 6 plus something equals whatever's in the 5 more category, or whatever so we can even think about it that way.
I love that. Like, taking it to like how abstract then it can become when we're thinking about that's like how we record the work that students are doing here is also really important. Yes. And just that visual. So you have so many layers here. You have the written word, you have the verbal communication, and you have the visual representation. So lots of different, and then we could say, like, okay, what happens if I change this from 6 to 4? Let's look at
what's going to happen in each one of those.
Or does anything change? Does anything change? And if it does, before you do it, what do you think it's going to happen? Like, what do you think you're going to have more in your, or less, and how many? And then the other thing sometimes we do is we cover the middle, except we take out the same number. We remove that one, the same amount. It should be maybe the same amount. And then we cover it and say, what was the amount in the middle based on the clues on the outside, So there's a lot of different ways of using
I love that too.
And whether you use concept circles or just have students sketch them out, or I just think we need a graphic organizer to help organize the thinking in some way. And you can create your own. You don't have to use a concept circle, but it's just important, I think, that graphic organizers really help, again, alleviate the work that the brain has to do for really developing an understanding of new information and freeing up that working memory that we can use to, keep things in play as we problem solve. And so it just helps organize instead of just show me 5 less, show me 5 more. It's a conversation piece, and we can also take a picture of it and put it on a large screen and say, let's
oh my gosh, I was just going to ask you that, because I'm thinking about us having this conversation right now and how many details that we could go into, but knowing that you might have 3 or 4 of these going on in a classroom, and then wanting to highlight a particular one so that you can have a full class discussion that would bring up, things that were happening at all of the tables.
Yes. Or just as a number talk, put this up, this picture up as a number talk. And let's talk. And then from there you could extract addition, like the notation of, 6 minus 5. What do you see there? Because that's what notation in mathematics is. It communicates stories to us. It describes our lives. That's what that teacher should have talked to me about with that rotating in a damn parabola. Like,
well, you know what? Maybe he's going to watch this episode.
Oh God, I don't know. I might get in trouble now. But anyway, yes. So that's the thing. And then if we go another step for the next one, we can see that if we want to, we can do this with it. I just recognized something here, right here on Math for All. It's just happening now. It's worth you just listening now for this. When we look at this, I didn't realize this. This is graphic organizers inside a graphic organizer.
Yes.
Oh, come on. Yep. Graphic organizer squared. Come on. That's rich. I'm trying to, right?
I love that because one thing that I was thinking about when we were looking at this slide is it's really appealing to my eye, but
it's hard to organize.
Yeah, it's a little chaotic.
It's chaotic within the pieces.
Yes.
And as you were talking and I was thinking about like consolidation of a lesson that would have been this, I'm thinking like, here we're doing this notation up on the board with the picture that you've taken. But man, when I look at that,
you're in love.
That's the picture, right? Because you can ask the question that you asked before, what happens if I take 2 away or I add 2 more to the center? What happens to every other one? Like, this gives you such a broader, or not broader, more specific. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
it's really even another layer of visualization.
Yeah, and the organization.
It goes back to, I sound like a broken record, but just alleviating the workload of the brain, because now you can see it more. It's a lot easier to see the patterns and the comparisons and the things that and as we do this and we implement this, planning ahead, okay, what do I want my students to learn? What am I going to be looking for? And that's in the guidance stuff. But as teachers, we can think about, okay, what is it I'm looking for? What kinds of math vocabulary do I want to infuse in this? How am I going to elicit that through my questioning? So the questioning comes from, what is it I want them to learn? What is it I want them to be able to do, understand? And that directs the questioning, and then that debriefing at the end to sort of consolidate and bring things together.
Well, and even how you would like organize this, I'm looking at the same number, right? So like we have the same number and the same orientation in the 10 frames, but like having the 1 row filled in for 5 and 1 more in the bottom, like it's still the same amount, but how we represent that looks different.
So
right?
Yeah, so maybe we could say, okay, I want you to represent your number in a different way. So they're going to reorganize it in their 10 frames.
Right?
For some kids like that, they think like, okay, I've moved them. I've not added more.
That's so conservation of.
I've like moved them sometimes. And that's a way for us to like notice, okay, does this child have like that one-to-one correspondence? Like whatever it, whatever we're trying to get at in that, because it is hard to recognize that there's 11 in the other picture, right? Like we could count each individual one and we would know that. But if we're just quickly glancing and looking, it's hard to think about, oh, how many was it? Oh, how many did I start with? And how many do I have now?
So the other one might be where you start to sort of look at it, to consolidate that.
I even like both, because this, like putting them side by side, because one shows me the need for why I might want to organize something. Right. Like, so when we do counting collections with kids, like, okay, you have this collection, you've counted, but if I add 1 more, like a lot of kids will want to count the whole thing. Well, could we organize it in a way that you wouldn't have to do that? And so like,
this allows you to subitize, right?
Yes. And I wonder then, having 2 of them both side by side.
I know.
As opposed to.
I want you to, if that's not the next slide, right?
No, it's not. I'm sorry. We're thinking and creating on Math for All live. Like it's just like this is what I'm talking. We need time to do this, right? Like this is rich and it's hard sometimes for teachers to have these kinds of, because there's, you don't have this kind of time sometimes in the classroom.
No.
But just to be able to sit and look at this and come up with all these different ways of implementing and thinking about it. And even I'm just thinking now, even filling it up 10 in the middle first, so that students can see how these different numbers relate to 10. And then and then you have your 3 more, why not put a sticky note beside it with the actual number? And then the actual number in the middle.
But what about even this? What if the sticky notes weren't there? You start with the circle and the kids have to put the sticky notes.
Yes. So you mean already completed?
Yeah.
And then they have to figure it out. Yes.
Yeah.
And
so
don't
many
forget,
things.
you can get into multiplicative thinking, right?
Yeah.
For our older students, twice as many, 3 times as many. And in
I feel like you
fractions.
did that with us with the pattern blocks and fractional amounts. Like it's
Yes.
that idea.
Oh, that's what we did.
Yeah, and that's coming up. I think I have
okay.
one coming
I
up in
jumped
this
ahead.
slide, but the next one is just even representing, you know, multiplication in different ways, and just looking at that and how many different ways, and having pictures and things. And it's really accessible, again, for all students, MLLs, even learners who struggle. I'm just finishing up some research with some teachers on concept circles. There was this one student who has never engaged at all. And then she found that, you know what, if you just ask me to fill in this space, I think I can do it. Like, she just realized that there was different ways to represent mathematics. Now, it did help that I had pink butterfly manipulatives, but that's just a whole other thing, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So
very similar to shoes.
Yeah, absolutely. You could you could even glue the butterflies on the shoes, but that's a whole other. That would be a whole other episode of Math for All.
That's right.
Mathematizing shoes. Anyway, but we're finding, and the teachers are finding, that it's having an impact, that there's more students accessing the mathematics and feeling comfortable because there's not just one way.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, and that's the whole point.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just seeing different ways, and even for us as educators, thinking about how many different ways can you represent 4 times 3, and what does that look like, and are there misconceptions here, and how should that look? So, and then you
also
get into,
like then talking about the relationships here, though, too, like which ones relate to each other because they have the same pattern, or how can we make connections between these? And that is the reason why we have multiple ways of looking at things, right? So that we can make those relationships, so that the concept is stronger. And this concept circle allows you to do that in a very quick and easy way.
Yeah, and and the other thing too, just to build on what you're saying, is the other slides with the manipulatives. Sometimes kids use manipulatives and they're all over the desk, and it's really hard as you're circulating to see where their thinking is. This creates a space for like the final, not necessarily the final, but their thinking goes in there, and then it's easier to manipulate and change and modify if needed. The editing is easier to do as well. But you can just walk around and say, oh yeah, okay, I see what they're doing. They're almost finished, or they're I see what they're trying to convey there. And then you can move into that argumentation. Prove to me that this is 3 less. How do you know that? How do you know that? By looking at that. Well, I count them. If I couldn't count them, what else could I do? What else could I see visually, like with the previous slide that we had? So those kinds of conversations, it just invites all sorts of different mathematical thinking that we can layer on, like good seasoning in a pasta bolognese, like that. It's layers, isn't it, though, really?
Yeah.
And when you think of when you cook, there's all sorts of tools. Like cooking soup in a frying pan is not going to be helpful. And so we need to have a variety of different tools that we can use in our teaching to help students visualize and see these patterns, because I do not think they do it inherently. And this allows that to happen. And it's not that, okay, when they're 25 and they need to pay for something at the store, they need to get out their concept circle. But at least it helps them, right, to build on these complex concepts for abstract thinking.
Well, they have a picture from the time that they did it, like in your mind, like you built the map in your head. And so, yes, you don't have to do that, but you have an understanding of, oh, I remember that and a place to start.
Yes. And then in the next slide, we have a slightly different one here where it's not the brightest one, but you can see, like, when we're talking about decimals and fractions and things like that, if the middle one represents 1, show what a tenth would look like, show what 600ths would look like. So there you got your proportional reasoning that you can introduce. And decimals are always hard to visualize and to represent. And once they have this proportional reasoning. It doesn't matter what you put in the middle. What if I just put a 10 in the middle and said, this is 1? How does that change things?
Love it.
So it's
I love it.
Lots of different.
Super versatile.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. I think, and again, whatever you use to do this, I just think a graphic organizer of some sort can help students see the patterns and make those connections.
I love it. I love it. And so the reason why we know you is because of the concept circle, and that you're going to be having these come out with Didex soon, correct?
Yes. There's going to be kits coming out with beautiful, very thick rub off, or whatever you call that, so that it's non-permanent surfaces, so that they can write on it, and very, very durable. And there's the double concept circle that we haven't even seen yet. So all of those, it's very, very exciting. So
awesome.
Yeah, so people can find that. So like if they're wanting to know more about where they can find out about your work, and we know that they can go to Didax, so that's the one of the places that you can start. You could always pre-order, I'm presuming. I don't know. Maybe you should have asked
they're taking pre-orders, I believe.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And also, what am I doing? Also, you can buy them in bulk.
Perfect.
Which saves money. So if a school district wanted to buy a bunch of them. But what are the other places where they can find you, Cathy?
Well, I have a website, www. There you go. Well, look at you. It's like you knew this was going to happen. So you're brilliant.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
We're so intuitive here at Math for All.
There, and my contact information is there as well. And I'm at the University of Toronto at the Ontario Institute for Studies and Education there. So, So that's
perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
I have to say before you say, I'm just such a fan of your work. It is just so authentic. And I've attended your sessions, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And it's so accessible for teachers. So thank you for the work that you do, and the sessions that you present, and your work with teachers. It's just, I've been in your sessions, and they're just extraordinary. So they inspire me.
Right back at you. It's like the same thing. We're always so blessed when we have opportunities to learn with other math people.
Yeah,
right.
Educators who are out there.
Right. Well, thanks so much for being with us, and we hope to see you in person soon.
I hope so. But this is good.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a good start.
That's a start.
Given that we live in different countries, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, my friends. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Oh, God.
Love her.
Love.
I know.
Again,
I'm so excited.
The luckiest. We get to talk to the coolest. And next week, not next week.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. We are going to be talking to Pam Brett, and that is our last show for this season, which is incredible. I cannot even believe it.
I know.
So exciting.
Wrapping it up.
Yes. And of course, our book at Didex. And until May 28th, we hope that you make math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone.
Thanks. Have a great night, everyone.